Hi there, First Philly Elementary, with a special hello to Miss McAllister's class and Miss Freil's class. Those are the people this video is for today. I'm Miss Allen, going to be your music teacher, as I said in my intro video. And so I wanted to get started with you guys reading one of my favorite authors. Actually, he's the author of the Corduroy book, and he's actually won a Caldecott honor for that book, which is a pretty high honor for people who are writing children's books. And his name is Mr. Don Freeman. And the book I'm going to read for you today, sorry that it's backwards, is Manuelo, the Playing Mantis. So, usually we're talking about praying mantises when we're talking about the animal, this guy that we're seeing right here. But because it looks like he's got some kind of instrument that he made himself, because it looks like this is made out of like a walnut shell or something like that. And I'd imagine because he's so small, he would need to make his own instruments, that they're calling him the Playing Mantis on this one. So I'm going to read you Manuelo the Playing Mantis, and then we're going to do a little activity afterwards. I am sorry that all the words are going to be backwards, but I am going to read it all to you. I just really wanted you to see the pictures while I read. This is Manuelo the Playing Mantis. By Don Freeman. So, over here we have our first picture of Manuelo hanging out on a tree branch. One warm summer evening in Cloverdale Meadow, a lonely praying mantis named Manuelo stood still as a stick, listening to beautiful music coming over the hill. Manuelo had attended these outdoor concerts many times before, and he knew the shapes and sounds of all the different instruments. It's a pretty well-versed, he really knows what he's talking about, this praying mantis. His favorite sounds were those of the flute, the trumpet, the harp, and the cello. So those are pretty much all in different instrument families. So the flute would be a woodwind instrument, and I know it's not made out of wood, but actually it used to be made entirely out of wood, which is why it's in the woodwind instrument family. The trumpet is in the brass family. The harp is in the string family, because it has all those strings that you pluck. And the cello, so I guess the harp and the cello are both in the string section. And a cello, you can even see it over my shoulder right here, looks a little bit like this. It's like a really big violin that has to sit on the ground. You can see there's like a little spike there. And you rest it on the ground, and then your legs go around either side, so you can play it in front of you, and Manuelo's going to show you how. Manuelo wished that he too could be a musician. Well, yeah, I mean, look at these outdoor concerts. This looks beautiful. So he's out on his tree branch, listening to the orchestra that's happening over here in the, what they call the outdoor bandstand, or the orchestra shell sometimes. And it kind of looks like a shell, and it's supposed to, or it's designed that way so that the sound pushes out, so that they don't really need microphones to have the instruments be heard on this stage by these people. Very pretty. When the concert was over, he climbed down from his perch in the thicket and went home to the pond. Hopefully, Manuelo started rubbing his legs against his wings, the way that crickets and grasshoppers and katydids do whenever they sing. So he's talking about when a grasshopper makes that sound, it's actually because it's rubbing its legs against its body, and its body and its legs have hairs on it that make that sound when you rub them together. So it's not actually coming out of their mouth, it's coming out of their legs. Pretty weird. And Manuelo gave it a try. He thought he maybe could do it. But as hard as he rubbed, he heard only silence and the clicking of a cricket coming nearer and nearer. Clickety-click, it chirped. A mantis can't make music the way I can. And then, just as quickly as it appeared, it disappeared behind the tall grass. So this cricket is not being very nice. He's not being very supportive of Manuelo's journey here. He's just trying out a few different ways to make music because he loves music so much. And this cricket is like, whatever, you can't make music the same way I can. And then he just leaves. He doesn't even want to have a conversation about it. Rude. Oh, so he comes up with another idea. Interesting. So we see our friend Manuelo here. He's got a little frog visitor as well. There must be something I can do, Manuelo sighed to himself. Then all at once he thought of an idea. I know, he said. I'd make a flute. At the water's edge, Manuelo found exactly what he needed. A hollow cattail. Oh, so that's what these guys are. They're called cattails because at the end there's all this really fluffy stuff, and if you break it, it actually turns into more like you're opening up a teddy bear almost. There's like so much fluff and cotton inside. In the middle of the pond, a frog sat, practicing his singing. Brr, brr. I don't know how frogs would practice their singing. He stopped his croaking and watched as Manuelo clipped off one of the tall reeds and nipped several tiny holes along its stem. So he cut down the reed and he's putting holes in the stem. Wonder why. Well, it looks like he managed to make a flute out of this reed that he has here. And he's holding it the right way. He has his fingers on the holes. But when Manuelo held up his flute and began to blow, not a sound came through. Not even a toot. Can anyone figure out why maybe Manuelo's instrument didn't work? I can think of a few reasons. I think maybe the main one is he left this big poofy part on the end, and in order for the flute to make sound, the air has to have somewhere to go. So instead of being able to come out the end and make sound, it has this big piece that's blocking it. So I think maybe that's why Manuelo is not getting any sound out of his instrument. Grumph, grumph, croaked the frog. We frogs know how to croak. Now that is music. A mantis can't make music the way frogs can. And with that, he jumped into the water. However, Manuelo hadn't even noticed the frog. His mind was on more important matters, as he set out to find another kind of instrument to play. Another animal that's really not helping Manuelo in his journey here. Just sitting there, and he also makes fun of him, says, "You can't make music like I can either, buddy," and then just hops off. These guys are just insulting and then leaving. Not a very nice way to live. Ooh, these pages are really pretty. Close by, he spied a trumpet vine clinging to a wall. "Just the thing," he cried. "I'll play a horn." Oh, okay. So he sees these flowers, and they do look a little bit like trumpets to me. They have that same shape on the end. Let's see how Manuelo tries to make a trumpet out of this flower. There he is. He's got it all set up. After snipping off a trumpet flower, he held it up the way any fine trumpet player does. and began to blow. He blew and blew and blew until he grew blue in the face. Once again, not a single sound could he make. Oh my goodness, have you ever tried to blow air through something and there's something blocking the other end and you just and push and push and push and it feels like your whole face is turning red? That is what keeps happening to poor Manuelo. He's blowing his air into all of these instruments. He's holding it exactly the right way, but no sound is coming out, and I wonder why. Oh, but Manuelo was not going to give up easily. On he went, undaunted. That means nothing was going to stop him, and he wasn't going to get down about it. He scanned the ground for something out of which he could fashion a harp. Aha! At last! Just what I want, he said, picking up a twisty twig that had fallen off of a fig tree. Soon he had bent and fastened the twig into a perfect harp shape. For strings, he found some strands of an old cobweb that he had stretched across the lowest branches of the fig tree. Now he was ready to sit down and play his harp. Alright, so there's our friend Manuelo. He found his twisty twig from a fig tree. And he is going to make it, oh wow, into a very beautiful harp. But when he began to stroke the delicate strands, they broke off one by one, all because of his snippy claws. No, indeed, the harp was not meant to be his instrument. Oh, you could see he's trying to play, but he has little hooks on his hands, so he's accidentally ripping all the strings as he goes. Oh, poor Manuelo. Poor Manuelo sat there feeling very sad. He loved music so much, and yet he could not make any. At that very moment, 3 katydids came out of the clearing and began to chant. Katydid, Katy, don't you know, a mantis can't make music the way we can. Manuelo was discouraged and almost ready to give up trying when he heard something whirring high above his head. "Take heart, my good fellow," said a thin, wispy voice. "I know how you feel. I can't make music either." I wonder what other animal would be talking to Manuelo about not being able to play any music. So he's sitting there very sad, and the katydids are coming out of the reeds and again making fun of him. These katydids, let me tell you. Oh, and so that little wispy voice belongs to a little spider friend. Turning his head completely around, Manuelo looked up and saw a spindly spider suspended by a thread from the branch above. "My name is Debbie Webster, and I've been watching you all evening," she said as she slid down lower and lower until she hung directly in front of Manuelo's face. "If you will do as I tell you, maybe together we can make a cello. But first of all, you must promise not to eat me." That would be my concern, too, if I was a little spider and I was going to work with a praying mantis, because they do like to eat spiders. Manuelo's eyes widened. Ooh. Oh, he's got some materials here. I wonder what he's going to do. He had forgotten all about the cello. "Why, of course I promise not to eat you." And he meant it. This could be worth 1,000 meals. "All right, then," advised the spider. "First you must fetch me an empty walnut shell and a stick with a curly-cue on the end." Without asking any questions, Manuelo went about searching everywhere. In hardly any time at all, he found half a walnut shell and a stick with a curly-cue on one end. Tucking them both under his arms, he rushed back to his spindly spider friend. Oh, so I was right. This was kind of like a walnut shape. "Now, my good Mantis," said Debbie, "if you'll fix the stick tightly to the shell, I will spin some strong strings for you." No sooner had Debbie whispered this than Manuelo attached the stick to the walnut shell. He watched as the nimble spider spun 4 strong silken threads from one end of the stick to the other. So you can kind of see he put the 2 pieces together, and Debbie is attaching all of them using the curlicue to hold the strings really tight so that she can make them like cello strings. Good going, Debbie. "All we need now is a bow," said Debbie. "Can you think of something that will do the trick?" Yes, I know," exclaimed Manuelo. "I saw a bluebird's feather that should make a splendid bow." And indeed, it did. Ooh, so he gets to use a feather as a bow. I wish. Bows are very expensive normally, so you can't really just use any old feather lying around. At last, Manuelo was ready to play his cello. Taking the bow in his right hand, he began moving it softly across the silken strings, and as he bowed back and forth, the most beautiful melody filled the night air. Debbie swayed to and fro, keeping perfect time to the music, like a pendulum. A pendulum is one of those pieces that goes in a metronome that clicks back and forth and keeps a steady rhythm. Gradually, from the grassy glade, from behind the fig tree, and from out of the pond, crickets, grasshoppers, katydids, and frogs came creeping forward, making a wide circle around Manuelo. Oh, so here he is. He's giving his little concert with his beautiful cello that he made. As they listened, each creature could not resist in joining in with the cello's mellow music. Soon everyone was taking part in the concert, with clicking, fiddling, wing singing, and deep-throated croaking. Never was there a more glorious insect symphony. On and on, far into the night, Manuelo played to everyone's delight. And there's his concert. So exciting that he finally gets to play for everyone. As the first glow of dawn lighted the morning sky, Manuelo rose slowly to his full height and stretched his arms out wide, a sign which served as a warning to the rest of the orchestra to take leave. Manuelo waited for Debbie Webster to slide down inside the hollow nutshell. Then he slung the cello over his shoulder and strode across the meadow to his home in the thicket. So he put his arms down, signaling to his orchestra that, time is up. And every summer night thereafter, Manuelo played his cello, while Debbie swayed back and forth by his side. The end. That is one great book, friends. So, because Manuelo did so much with anything that he could find around his place, around his house, I wanted to give you guys the same challenge. So before I upload my video on Friday, I want you guys to think of an instrument that you might be able to make in your own house. So Manuelo found a reed that he could put holes into to make a flute. He also could have found anything to make a drum or another percussion instrument out of. And I want you guys to figure all that out because on Friday, I'm going to post a video how to make your very own instrument at home using just one of these, a drinking straw. So if you want to follow along with my tutorial on Friday, then all you're going to need is one plastic drinking straw. You can either get a bendy kind. I like the bendy kind just because it kind of feels a little bit more to me like a saxophone, which is an instrument that I actually do know how to play pretty well. But if you don't have access to a straw like this, or if you can't find them at the dollar store or wherever they may be, you could also just use a regular straight ahead straw. This one's just from Dunkin' Donuts. I happened to get an extra straw one day and held on to it. That would make a pretty good flute. Or if you have a bunch of these, if you do, pretty cool. These are those really thick, big smoothie straws that have kind of like the bottom of it is at an angle, which is kind of what you would want for making a flute. But these are a little bit too big. You would have to squish down this top part really, really heavily in order to make a sound out of this. So I wouldn't recommend using these kind of big smoothie straws for this particular activity. You can make a flute out of this, but I'm not going to show you how to do that on Friday. I'm just going to use the regular straw. And then we'll all be as improvisational as Manuelo. All right, I will be posting your calm and your movement to the all videos section of my board, and I'll see you guys on Friday again. Oh, and enjoy your Moana yoga adventure tomorrow. I think it's going to be pretty fun. Thanks, guys.